this video, we're going to talk about a real conversation and how real business gets done. What, son?
How'd you do that?
I see that success is not something you pursue, it is something you are.
All right, so we were having a conversation inside of our private Facebook group about a real conversation and in terms of getting on a stage. And so I'm going to walk you through this whole thing, and this is how business really gets done. This is how you get the gig, and you're going to see why a lot of people don't get events, why a lot of people struggle, why a lot of people don't make money, because it's little things that make a disconnect between the guys who make money and everyone else. And so this is a real conversation, and just listen to this, okay? So the guy inside one of the Speak Pro members, he posted the actual conversation he was having. I think he was actually having this conversation real time. So he was getting stuff done. He wasn't waiting for everyone else. He was getting stuff done. And so I'm going to read you this whole thing, and I'm going to read you how I was coaching him through this whole thing and the whole shebang. So basically, he posted this. This was his initial post. He said he sent an email to a lead, and she responded with, "Call me at XYZ." Okay, so he calls her and he talked to her for a bit, and she asked to send the information, right? Send fee info, like how much it costs, information, all that stuff. So this is the conversation that followed. He said, "Hi, Maria. Thank you for talking to me today. You can see some video of my presentation at my site." Here we go. And then he said, "Along with several testimonials and reviews from my audience members from events where I have been hired to perform. Everything I do involves feats of strength, like bending steel bars, twisting horseshoes, and breaking chains. I use the feats as a way to illustrate the important points of a message. It's very interactive and entertaining. Just out of curiosity, who are some of the speakers you've hired in the past? I typically put together a couple of options after talking with a planner. My jumping off point is option A, 10,500. Keynote for 60 minutes, 100 books included, retail value $2,000 because I'm a boss. And then book signing, travel included, one breakout session / workshop, speech customization specifically for your event, personalized piece for the organizer, a steel wrench, etc. So he gives them something personal. So option B is 8,500, which is a keynote, 60-minute presentation, travel included, speech customization specifically for your event, personalized piece for the organizer, steel wrench, something bent. And then he said, I have the option to sell books in the back of the room. A few questions that I thought of. Will you be video recording the event? And would you want a breakout session from our conversation? It didn't sound like that would be relevant. So he sent all that. He had a conversation. He talked to her on the phone. She said, "Yeah, send us some information." So great job. Then he sent this. And her reply was this. She said, "Thanks, Dave, for reaching out. Since our organization is a 501c19, what in the world? Nonprofit. Oh, okay. Our budget for keynote speakers caps out at around $2,500. Our keynote also speaks at the formal military banquet, and your presentation would probably fit better during a breakout session. And we don't pay for our speakers. We don't pay our speakers for those, okay? I do appreciate you reached out and wish you the best of luck, all the best. Thoughts on how to proceed?" Well, that's what he said. Thoughts on how to proceed. All right. Now, this is very interesting in terms of what she was saying. And I mean, think about it. So he contacted her. He called her. So she was semi-interested in what he had to say. Then when he told her the amount, she's like, "Oh my goodness, that's a lot." And so then she said, "Oh, we only have this much. Plus we don't pay our breakout speakers. So I'm not sure." And so honestly, she probably got scared at how much it cost. She didn't realize how much it'd be or something. And so that's probably why she backed out. But then we had this conversation inside the Speak Pro Academy. So I told him, "Hey, do it for the 2,500 just so you can get the video footage." Because I know David, like it would be really good if he could get the video footage at this formal event. And what he would have done if he would have done that is he just would have taken away something. So instead of saying 60 minutes, he would have said, okay, I'll just do a 30-minute presentation or a 40-minute presentation or whatever. He would have taken things away to get it down to 2,500. And he could have just made the excuse of, well, since you're a nonprofit, okay. So, I told him, look, just do it so you can get the video footage, okay? So he sent the email. He said, email sent. Let me see what she says. Then she replies with, again, not likely a fit for the formal banquet, but I will pass it along to the powers that be. And so I said, and what's your response going to be? Okay. So here's where most people would have stopped. Most speakers would have stopped. So he replied and he said this. She replies back by saying, again, it's probably not a fit for us, but I'll send it to the powers that be. What are you going to do? Are you going to stop at that point? Are you going to be a wuss? Are you going to be like, oh, man? So what are you going to do? And so that's what I asked him. I was like, and what's your response going to be? He said, I'm not sure. What do you suggest? I told him, make a guess. And then he said, I was thinking of saying something about not just a speech, it's an experience pitch. And he's saying that because I do this thing. I have a template inside the whole program where whenever people say stuff to you, you're like, look, listen up, son. It's not just a speech. It's a freaking experience. And so that's like the response, right? And so that's why he said that. And then he said, I've already sent video testimonials. And my response was, well, what can you say that would get her to give you feedback? So what can you say that would get her to give you feedback? And he replied, I'm not following you. And I get it. As I reread that, I realized like, well, what's going on inside of my head tends to be, I tend to be off in my own world at times. So I understand why he said, I'm not following you. And so I replied back by saying a better reply would be, okay, thanks. What exactly is a good fit for the formal banquet? Okay. So remember, her response was, again, not likely a fit for our formal banquet, but I will pass it along to the powers that be. So I said, how can you respond in a way that would allow you to get information, that would allow you to get feedback? So his response should have been, okay, thanks. Well, what exactly is a good fit for the formal banquet? That way you get information and you know what to pitch, you know what to say. Whereas if you don't know what a good fit is, you don't know what to say to them. You don't know how to reply. And so he said, done. He sent it out. Bam, he got it done. And then, let me scroll here. Here's what happened. He said, she replies with, I'm not sure your message would be inspiring. But the event itself is very formal in pomp and circumstance. Okay. And then she said, the speaker typically stands at the podium. Room is packed to the gills. No room for props, etc. Although it would be wonderful to do something different. I've worked here a long time and realized that won't happen. Man, talk about a negative Nancy. My goodness, she's negative. And so that was her response. She's like, look, it's not going to happen. At this point, most speakers would give up because most speakers are like most speakers. But I am not most speakers, and you better not be like most speakers. So I said to him, David, well, what's next? And he said, you tell me, coach. And then David said, I'm looking through the template, the responses on the site. I'm not sure what's the best direction. Okay. So he wasn't sure exactly what to do. And I told him, well, it doesn't involve a template. What else can you do at this point? Okay. So think about it. So she's responding back like, look, it's not going to work out. And I don't know. I don't know about this. And she's like, oh, your presentation could be cool, but I don't know. It may be a little bit too formal and all that. So I said like, look, well, what else can you do? I mean, think about it. What else can you do at this point when she keeps saying, no, we're not interested, right? So here's what I said. Let me scroll here. So what do you, all right. So he said, I don't know. I said, what would you do inside the CRM if they were interested? Okay. So I just rephrase it a little bit. What would you do if they were interested? And so he said, if they're interested, listen up. Said, if they're interested, you tag them to the contact for future events and follow up 6 months prior to whatever the next event is. Her reply is that my show isn't a fit for the event, so that's where I'm unsure. Okay, so it makes sense. I mean, she says like, "Hey, you're not a good fit," but what you would do if they were interested is you would follow up with them. Okay, now I said this. I said exactly. You should set a follow-up date. Her reply is irrelevant. She's not the decision maker. She can tell you no, but she can't say yes. Until you hear a no from a decision maker, her reply doesn't count. That's the truth. That is 100% the truth. You do not want to keep talking to people who can always tell you no, but they cannot say yes. And she is the person who will always say no, but she cannot give a yes. She's not even trying to actually pass this information along. She may say she will, but I guarantee you she's not. And so you don't want to take a no from someone who can't give you a yes. If the decision maker would have said that, hey, you're not a good fit for us, then it's like, okay, on to the next one. But basically, she's a person, I mean, she has no idea. She's not in charge of the event. She absolutely nothing. I mean, so there is no point in listening to what she says in terms of, no, you're not a good fit. And so what he has to do, even though she said no, he has to get around her. He has to find out another contact person to talk with and then talk with them later on down the line. And so that's what he has to do. He has to set a follow-up date and then contact another person. That's how the process works. That's how real conversations, that's how you really get booked. You do not accept a no from someone who can't give you a yes. You just don't do that. And so this is why I keep telling guys like, look, you really need help in terms of contacting events. You really need help in terms of building your business. And if you're not a member of the Speak Pro Academy, join the Speak Pro Academy because that's what we do. This is what we talk about. I guarantee you most speakers, like literally almost every speaker, would have stopped at the very first response where she said, oh, I don't know, we're a nonprofit, I don't know. I guarantee you most speakers would stop there. You need to think of it as unless you send 10 emails, unless you contact them 10 times, then it doesn't count. And so you have to contact them 10 times at least to actually know, is this a legit event or not? And then on top of that, you have to talk to the right person every time you contact them, because if you're contacting someone who can always tell you no, but they can't say yes, you're talking to the wrong person. So just understand that this is how business really works. This is how sales really works. If you want to get on a stage, you got to keep pushing and you got to make sure that you're getting information. So the one thing that would have been perfect with her is he could get information from her. So he could get information about who they brought in the past and what they kind of expect, things like that. He can get information. He can use that information to put into the CRM and follow up with someone else later on. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And when he gets the gig, I expect 99%.